Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a case today that's going to make you think about how time and justice kind of collide.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
It's Dell Sims. He was imprisoned like for decades for murder,
Right.
but it wasn't until, years later, DNA analysis and all these forensic technology advancements came about that they found out just how awful his crimes really were.
Yeah, you provided a Wikipedia article and a PDF about Sims.
And it's a heavy one.
What really gets me about this case is how Sims just, built what seemed like a normal life, but the whole time he's hiding these terrible, terrible secrets.
Yeah, how does a serial killer go unnoticed for so long? I mean,
Exactly.
that's what we're going to try to figure out today.
Okay.
So who was Dell Sims? Like before he was, this notorious criminal.
Well, he was born in Oklahoma back in 1935,
Okay.
and we don't know much about his early life, but we know he was convicted of rape during a burglary in 1965.
So right away, violence against women.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's a recurring theme in his story.
It's a bad sign. Yeah. So then he ends up in Fresno, California, early 1970s.
Yep. He gets married, has a daughter, and he starts working as a fry cook.
So he's really trying to, go straight, it seems like.
We're trying for a fresh start, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But his wife, Caroline Turner, later said he was abusive, and she said he had a disturbingly high sex drive.
Wow. Did anyone, suspect anything at the time?
That's a good question. Hard to say.
Yeah, wild. Okay, so this is all before the murder that puts him behind bars, right?
Right.
Janet Hurstein.
Janet Hurstein, yeah. May 18th, 1977. She was only 17, a student and a newspaper delivery girl.
Awful.
They found her body by a canal.
Oh, no.
She'd been raped and strangled with a cord. Brutal. The police, they focused on this guy who was seen talking to Janet on her paper route. He called himself Davy McGowan.
Okay, so was this David McGowan a suspect?
Well, there's a twist.
I bet there is. What is it?
McGowan was an alias. The guy was actually Dell Sims. Yep. They convicted him and sentenced him to life without parole for Janet's murder.
Wow. Case closed. Right, or so they thought.
You would think, right.
Yeah, it seems like that's how the story should end, but
But it doesn't.
of course not. That's why we're talking about it.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting, though. It shows how powerful time and technology can be. Flash forward to 1996. They take a blood sample from Sims.
Okay. What for?
It was part of this program looking into cold cases. And then a year later,
Yeah.
1997,
Uh-huh.
that sample changed everything. It linked him to DNA that was found on another woman's body.
Oh, wow.
Then in 2001, more DNA testing, and they connected him to evidence from yet another victim.
So they had him on one murder conviction, and suddenly he's linked to all these other potential murders.
Exactly.
This must have been huge in Fresno. So how did they start to bring Sims to justice for these other crimes?
Yeah, it was a total bombshell. Suddenly, Sims is a suspected serial killer.
Yeah.
The investigation just blew up from there.
So this is where that DNA evidence becomes so crucial, right?
Solely.
Like it's like a super specific fingerprint.
It is.
Can you walk us through how that actually works? Like how does DNA evidence link someone to a crime?
Sure. Everyone, almost everyone, has completely unique DNA.
Right, except for identical twins and all that.
Exactly, yeah. It's like a genetic fingerprint. So if investigators find, say, blood at a crime scene or semen, hair, saliva even,
Okay, yeah,
they can get DNA from that sample.
got it.
And then they can create a DNA profile from that.
Okay, so then they compared that profile to the sample they got from Sims back in '96.
Exactly. And the technology has gotten so much better over the years, they can use even tiny amounts of DNA,
Oh, wow.
even if it's like old and degraded.
So in Sims' case, the DNA connected him to, like, at least 4 other murders in Fresno?
At least 4, yeah, between 1974 and 1976.
Okay, and they were all, like, confirmed matches?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about the victims. Who were they?
Well, the first one was Kathy Stark. She was just 17, murdered in August of 74. And then there's Elizabeth Ann Ortega, only 15, murdered in November of the same year.
Just awful.
And, get this, Elizabeth was actually friends with Sims' wife. She had even been to their house.
Oh, God. That's chilling.
It's scary to think about, being a teenager and going to your friend's house not knowing
Yeah.
that her husband is
Right.
a killer. And then there was Robin McCullough. She was 18. Murder in November of 75.
Okay.
And then the last one we know of was Eva Hernandez Lucio, 15 years old. She was last seen walking home from school. They found her body in a vineyard in June of 76. And they were all strangled.
Oh, man. All these young women just, their lives cut short.
Yeah,
It's just heartbreaking.
it is.
And for the families, to go from not knowing to suddenly having answers,
Right.
even after all those years,
Must be a lot to process.
it must be a lot.
Yeah. And there's another layer to this whole thing. In December of 2001, they moved Sims from San Quentin to the Fresno County Jail to face charges for these new murders. And a couple of rapes, too.
He was already serving life, though.
He was.
So what was the point of charging him with more crimes?
Well, I mean, he pled not guilty.
Of course.
But I think it was important to, officially recognize all the victims.
Yeah, I guess.
Try to bring some closure.
Okay, so they focus on one case to triumph for.
Yeah, the big trial was in 2008 for Elizabeth Ortega's murder.
Right.
The DNA was, basically a slam dunk.
Sure.
So they found him guilty, gave him a second life sentence.
So 2 life sentences, basically.
Yeah, running concurrently. But then, get this.
What?
The Fresno DA's office dropped all the other charges.
Seriously?
I know.
But the DNA?
I know, right?
Why would they do that?
It's hard to say.
That seems crazy to me.
It's definitely controversial. I mean, think about it. They got to weigh their resources against, the desire to get justice for everyone. And he's already in prison for life.
Yeah, but still,
It's not right.
those families.
I know.
To know he did it, but not.
I know. Tough situation. It really makes you think about how the justice system works or doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. And what about those murders before Fresno?
Right. That's still an open question. They're still looking into it. Could be more victims out there somewhere.
That's a scary thought.
No.
So, even though Sims is locked up, this case might not be over.
Who knows? But it shows you how important forensic science is.
Yeah.
And how it can uncover the truth even after all these years.
It's like we're living in a sci-fi movie,
I know, right? The stuff they're coming up with now.
It's crazy. What else is out there that's going to change how we solve these crimes?
Well, there's this thing called forensic phenotyping. It's getting super advanced.
Get that.
So they can use DNA to figure out what someone looks like their hair color, eye color, skin tone.
Really?
Yeah, and even their face structure.
So they could create a sketch of the suspect just from DNA.
Basically.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So even if they don't have a match in the database, they can at least get an idea.
Exactly. Wow. What else?
Oh, and then there's microbial forensics?
Microbial, microbes.
Yeah, like the tiny, tiny organisms that live on your body, bacteria, fungi, all that.
Okay.
So it turns out that those little communities of microbes are different for everyone. And they can change based on, where you've been, what you've been doing.
Okay.
They can even transfer from one person to another.
Interesting.
So, you could find microbes at a crime scene that came from the suspect.
So even if they didn't leave any DNA, they might have left microbes.
Exactly.
Pretty cool, huh?
It's kind of creepy, too, when you think about it. We're covered in these little things
I know,
that
right?
can give us away.
It's a little Big Brother-ish, I guess.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about privacy and all that.
For sure. They're ethical questions.
Yeah, definitely. But I guess if it helps solve crime.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so zooming out a little bit, what's the biggest takeaway from this whole Dell Sims case for you?
I think the scariest thing is that someone like him can blend in so well.
Right.
He had a family, a job, no one suspected a thing.
It's like he had this whole other life, a dark side that no one saw.
Exactly. I mean, it just shows that you never really know,
Yeah, that's true. But at least, the investigators never gave up on this case.
Yeah, they did a great job. And those families, fighting for justice all those years.
Yeah, what a story.
Yeah.
I think it shows that we should never give up hope.
I agree. And that science can help us get the truth.
Yeah, even after all this time. So this Dell Sims case, it's a story about the dark side of humanity, really.
Sure.
But it's also a story about how smart people are.
Yeah.
And how we're always trying to find justice. So to everyone listening, if you want to learn more about this case, go for it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a deeper look.
There's a lot to unpack. And think about what forensic science means for all of us.
It's changing the world.
It really is. That's all the time we have for today.
Wow.
But we'll be back soon with another deep dive. So until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep searching for the truth.